From Cardinal Virtual Productions, I'm Tegan Young.
And I'm Patrick Kravitz with your Fisher News Brief.
Pat Quinn has died, but his memory and actions live on. The New York native was a co-founder of the Ice Bucket Challenge, which helped raise international awareness about ALS, also known as Lou Gehrig's disease. John Lorenick reports.
Pat Quinn's life took a major turn in March 2013, shortly after he celebrated his 30th birthday and was diagnosed with ALS, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis.
I just feel like it's my purpose in life.
Standing over here for you.
Quinn co-founded the Ice Bucket Challenge, a viral social media phenomenon that began in 2014 and raised more than $220 million globally for ALS research, according to the ALS Association. Celebrities and former presidents got in on the challenge.
Something like an Ice Bucket Challenge where people just say ALS, the awareness gets out there. Maybe a few more people will look it up.
Quinn would later lose his ability to speak, but he was never silenced, thanks to a device that recreated his voice and inflections by matching it with previous speeches and interviews he did over the years.
Whatever it takes to keep making a difference, change this disease, and hopefully inspire people along the way.
On the 5th anniversary of the Ice Bucket Challenge's debut, Quinn said to a crowd at an ALS event in Boston that although his fight with ALS was an absolute battle, he wouldn't trade my life for anything.
Hope is everything and it keeps me going.
Pat Quinn was 37 years old. I'm John Lawrence reporting.
The ALS Association says Quinn fought the disease with positivity and bravery and inspired all around him. There is currently no cure for the neurodegenerative condition.
And Michigan Physicist believes that a product he developed could be effective in slowing down the spread of coronavirus and other diseases. Marissa O'Burrow reports.
I hope that we change human hygiene.
Dr. David Edwards wants to make a difference. That's why the aerosol physicist from Grand Rapids launched Fend this spring.
Fend is a new hygiene for cleaning the airways of respiratory droplets.
Edwards says it's the nasal equivalent of washing your hands. He explains when people breathe, they inhale particles, some infectious. Mucus lining in the upper airway is supposed to capture them. But if a person is older or overweight, that mucus loses its function.
If you have any pathogen like influenza virus or the SARS-CoV-2 virus in your mucus, it gets in the air and then it can go deep in your lungs where it can lead to severe infection or it can come out and infect other people.
Fend restores that mucus.
It's a salt solution that we form in a cloud with a device that looks like this. And so we turn it over, it creates a cloud. I don't know if you can see that cloud. And then I breathe it through my nose and the droplets coat my nose and my trachea.
Edwards began researching the concept in 2001 during the anthrax scare, never imagining this is how his work would be used. The recommended treatment is 3 times per day, the solution lasting up to 6 hours. A preliminary study of 500 people, including some tested at Grand Rapids Community College this week, found those who used Fend exhaled 75% fewer particles than those who did not.
It will be used and is starting to be used in offices and factories and healthcare settings.
Edwards believing it shows promise not only in the treatment of COVID-19, but influenza and polluted air.
I think that the efficacy of this product, I think it's opening up a whole new class of hygiene. There will be other kinds of airway hygiene in my view. And so I'm hopeful that Fend will help us live cleaner, safer lives.
A Virginia man is charged with assault after deliberately breathing on a group of women. The Loudoun County Sheriff's Office confirms Raymond Eskins
is the man seen on this video exhaling at a gathered crowd. The incident occurred outside of President Trump's golf course in Sterling Saturday. The 24-second video shows the 61-year-old Eskins getting into a verbal conflict with a group of Trump protesters.
Okay. Get away from me! Get away from me! No.
Do what you want,
Get away!
I'm not in anybody's face.
You are in my face, and you don't have a mask. You need to back up.
That's assault. That's a good.
I breathed on you.
That's a good. Get it. That's assault. That's assault. All right.
Oh my God. Now call the cops and ask them to come get him.
Authorities say Deskins was released on a summons.
Los Angeles County is shutting down outdoor dining as COVID infections surge. The order takes effect on Wednesday at 10 p.m. and includes dining at breweries, wineries, and bars. Drive-through takeout and delivery services will be allowed. It comes as the LA Department of Public Health reports that the 5-day average of new infections has passed 4,000 daily cases. The department says if that number hits 4,500 or if hospitalizations reach 2,000, a targeted stay-at-home order will be issued for 3 weeks.
The coronavirus pandemic has ravaged Germany, with a number of cases nearing 1 million. At least 14,000 people have lost their lives to the virus across the country, so it's no wonder that COVID intensive care units are now under strain. Some are even warning that the entire German healthcare system may soon get overwhelmed. CNN's Fred Peltigen has more on the story from inside a German hospital.
Working round the clock to save lives, this doctor is performing a tracheostomy, making a surgical airway on a patient with severe COVID-19. We're in the COVID ICU of the Ernst von Bergmann Hospital in Potsdam, just outside Berlin, where the number of coronavirus patients requiring intensive care has dramatically risen in recent weeks, and they expect things to get worse.
If that carries on with that speed that we are experiencing right now, I would imagine that even our hospital with over 1,000 beds is at a point, or will come to a point where we can't, where we have to send patients home, or not home, but to other hospitals to get them treated.
When we visited, only 2 of the 16 ICU beds were vacant. The staff was already canceling other non-urgent operations to free up capacity and making plans to convert more of its general intensive care facility into COVID ICUs. Germany has one of the best healthcare systems in the world, but it's continuing to see high numbers of new coronavirus infections and more people requiring treatment in ICUs. One of the things that the government has said, if the current trajectory continues the way it is right now, even Germany's healthcare system could be overwhelmed in a matter of weeks. And that could be bad news for all of Europe. Germany has been taking in COVID patients from neighboring countries whose healthcare systems are overwhelmed. For now, they can continue to do that, but it's not clear for how much longer. Official data shows the amount of COVID-19 patients in German ICUs jumped from about 260 to almost 3,600 in just 2 months. Even many younger patients with severe symptoms, a senior physician says.
We have patients of 30, 40 years here who are on the ventilator, and I'm not sure if they survive.
Germany has recently seen a string of demonstrations against the country's anti-pandemic measures, many protesters denying the severity of the virus, considered a slap in the face by frontline medical workers working hard to keep people alive. I also sometimes hear people say things like, it's almost like a regular flu, the chief nurse says. We just cannot understand people who talk that way. Germany is still far away from such scenarios. There are thousands of ICU beds available in the country, but the head of Potsdam's intensive care division says, beware of the outbreak's dynamic.
Nationwide, the numbers are climbing, and they're still climbing, and they're not coming down at the moment.
And while the staff here can provide top-notch care, they urge people to protect themselves from the virus to minimize the risk of ever winding up in the COVID ICU ward. Fred Pleiken, CNN, Potsdam, Germany.
People magazine has chosen Michael B. Jordan as its Sexiest Man Alive for 2020.
The Black Panther star was revealed as the honoree on Jimmy Kimmel Live. People has been naming a Sexiest Man Alive for the past 35 years. Jordan joked that the women in his family are proud of this award.
Last year's Sexiest Man Alive was singer John Legend. Actor Idris Elba had the honor the year before.
Quality rental property channels its inner home alone. And a homeowner has a bountiful buzzard problem. Jeremy Roth has today's Take a Look at This.
This Dallas area Airbnb wants guests to feel alone, home alone. The Kevin is a rental property made to look like the famous home from the 1990 holiday classic. Each detailed room is meant to capture a scene from the film, and guests are even treated to a complimentary cheese pizza.
A lovely cheese pizza just for me.
But you might want to watch your step. The house does come armed with Kevin's signature booby traps.
You guys give up, or you're thirsty for more?
The owner has designed other pop culture-themed rentals, but says this one is special. He says Christmas at the McAllister house was an idea he just couldn't pass up. The Kevin will be available for a limited time through the holidays. This North Carolina house also has kind of a movie theme going on, only not on purpose. Think Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds. Alexandra Caldwell's home has become ground zero for a flock of buzzards. She says 10 to 20 of the birds show up each morning like a not-so-welcome welcoming committee.
The sunrise comes up on my back porch. It's like, oh, so pretty. Then it's like, you see the buzzards.
Number one, the destructive birds have wreaked havoc, tearing away shingles, window caulking, even picking apart some of the chimney. And number two, well, you know, number two. The Caldwells have asked authorities for help, but to add insult to injury, because buzzards are a federally protected species, local officials say their hands are tied.
They're destroying our property. It's just frustrating because you know you can't do anything about it.
For Take a Look at This, I'm Jeremy Roth.
That's all today's news. I'm Patrick Kravitz.
And I'm Tegan Young with your Fisher News Brief.